All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your first session. We are going to start because we only have 20 minutes and it's going to go really fast. I'm Karen Knudsen. I am a facilitator for the Principal Technology Network, and I work in Tustin Unified. And today, your speaker is Krista Johnson. She's also from Tustin, and we both are alumni. We both were fellows for reading, and she's going to be presenting today on counting collections and SeeSaw. So if you have any questions, since it's so short, she's just going to keep going. But if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. And then we will be sharing her presentation with everyone toward the end of the presentation. So thank you, Krista, for being here, and take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and always being able to give back to Cotsen because they are amazing and they have created so many opportunities for me and other people that I will always take the time to give back. So since this is a snapshot, it is going to be a little bit more quickly. Like Karen said, we'll do the questions at the end. So today I'm focusing on how we can incorporate SeeSaw with counting collections, and also how any part of this SeeSaw stuff can be incorporated into all of your learning, just by giving students some choice. And you can also give guided choice if you know differentiating for students would be helpful. So we're just going to go ahead and get started and jump right in. So we're kind of doing a little bit backwards planning. So we're going to see what the end result would be and then kind of go through the steps to get there. So this is the example of what a student would do after they've counted their collection. And this is their actual upload to SeeSaw. This is the link. So when you get the slides, you could click on the link or you could scan the QR code. I wasn't sure afterwards what would work, so I gave a couple different options.
I am counting by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 71.
Okay, so for her post that she made, I actually, for the purpose of this, we used all of the tools that were available. So she used the drawing tool to label her collection. She used the voice recording tool, which also allowed her to point and track as she went. She used the typing tool. And you can also see that she was able to revise her thinking because she had the 66 at the top, she crossed it out, and then she just drew a representation at the bottom. So this really allows for kids to use all the modalities of SeeSaw by using their voice, by drawing, and then typing as well. There's one more example that shows a little bit of a different way that he did it. So I'll show that one real quick.
I'm counting by 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67. That's how many cubes I have. 67.
So you can see that he also used the drawing tool and he recorded, but he didn't necessarily track each time. He didn't feel like he needed to follow along with tracking. So that's how that one was differentiated. Well, not differentiated, that was how he chose not to do that. But like I said, you could guide them in their choices, or you can give them the choice. But like I said, so you guys could see all of it, I kind of guided their choices. And there's one more, but for the sake of time, you guys can go back and watch it a little bit later, but you can see she used a different drawing tool and she counted hers out as well. So one other thing I wanted to go over, because along with the counting collections, obviously they have to count out their collection first. They're going to have it all organized on the floor, but then they're going to take their picture and then use the tools. So like I mentioned, there's the text tool where they can label the items, the drawing tool, which they chose to use. A lot of them choose to do the drawing tool because it's easier to just draw it. They can draw how they counted. Then the voice recording tool is the one that allowed them to count along with. And then also, just to note, because some of them didn't realize, the only time the arrow, which allows them to track along, pops up is when you actually push record. So I added that one here as well. And then this is where they can add additional photos or videos or another picture they can upload from their photo bank that they have. And then some other tools they have are shapes. And then when they get into SeeSaw, you know, they always learn the little things on their own and want to make it fancy. There's the background. And then links, which is helpful for you if you want to put a link in for them to watch something to use in an activity. And then over here on the side are all the different colors that they can use to edit all of these things. And I actually just like created this in SeeSaw and took a snapshot. And then here is, so we started with what their SeeSaw upload looked like. So we're just going to watch like, just like maybe 1 to 2 minutes to see how we got the lesson started. And then we'll watch to see how they uploaded. So this is just the very beginning of the counting collection. Karen, do you think it's okay if I just play it for here? Or should I make it big? It's okay.
Okay, so today you guys all have a jar for your counting collection.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go ahead and dump it out and you can start organizing it in the way that you want to group your collection. What are some ways we've been practicing counting?
10.
We've counted by tens. What are some other ways we practice counting? Fives. We also did a warm-up counting for clothesline math where we counted by fives. So go ahead and group your collection.
10, 20.
Awesome.
Very important, not very firm details added in.
10, 20, 30, 40.
Okay, let's get back to our collection.
60, 70, 80,
So you can see, you can see as like some are counting by fives and some are counting by tens. And one thing I noticed that especially first graders and kindergartners tend to do is see how he's starting to organize by color. And then she was doing the same thing. And so was Chloe. They were organizing by flower and rainbow. So I kind of did like a mid interruption and said, oh, well, what are some ways we can count? And then Pierce had a really awesome thing that he said. Just for the interest of time, I'm going to say it. He was counting by tens, but then he realized if he counted by three times and added 1, he got to 10. So then I noticed him doing that. So he was counting his collection actually 2 different ways. Then the next video.
Okay, so today you have.
There we go. And like I said, those are all the full videos are on there for you to refer back to later. And also, like they mentioned at the beginning, if you want any more information on any of this, I am more than happy to share. So just make sure you put it in the evaluation so that we know that there's an interest for that. Then here you can see they have their collections counted, like Pierce counted his by tens, Malachi counted by 5, so did Scarlett. And it was really hard to record their screen. So you can just kind of hear them talking about it. So we'll just watch a snippet of that.
Okay, so now you have your collections counted. You've counted by tens or by fives. Now you're going to use your iPad. You're going to go into SeeSaw. You're going to add a photo. And then we are going to label our collection with the drawing tool. Okay, we're going to label it how we counted. Then you're going to use the arrow and point to it as you record your voice counting it. And then at the bottom, you'll use the typing tool to type out how many items were in your collection.
Okay.
Make sure you get a good aerial view over the top of your collection so you get your whole collection in your photo so you're able to count the whole thing. Okay?
Oh my God. Is that
Pierce, you can go ahead and unplug your
is that by my
headphones. Oh, that's okay.
I did it.
Please get it. Uh-oh. Teacher's right here.
I was gonna say, please get your teacher.
Lexia, always asking for the teacher.
So as you can see, they're just going to kind of keep going through and they're like doing the things that I made the screencast for, but it was just no matter how I turned the camera, it wasn't working. So I just left it. But you can see they have their collection. Now they're using to take their picture. So counting and getting it organized first, where you can still listen in and hear and give your teaching points within the counting collection. And then they can go and then represent hopefully by thinking about what we talked about in the lesson in their post to SeeSaw.
Okay, so now you have your.
And then one other piece I wanted to add in that was kind of a side note was how SeeSaw, like I'm not sure what your guys' background with SeeSaw is, but how it creates family access and creates a huge engagement piece. So I know as a mom also, like I would love to see, you know, all the little things that my daughter's doing. And I don't necessarily get to, but SeeSaw gives a bird's eye view because, you know, when you ask them what they did at school today, they're like, oh, I played at recess, right? So it allows them, if you give them access, to be able to see all of the things that they're uploading to SeeSaw. I just always make sure I have approval for parent comments or anything on there. And also for you, if like a parent's like, oh, well, I didn't know they were having a hard time with that, or I never saw that. It shows you like if a parent has seen it, a parent can like the item and they can also comment. So it gives, and I always like mention like at back to school night and stuff, like this is a positive place. We're encouraging our kids, we're promoting learning. Like it's not like a critique area, you know? So like she was just saying your voice was so strong and reading is great. And I know a lot about pandas. So that having them have that feedback from their parents on their work is also encouraging for them, as well as their teachers can go in and like it. So it shows the parent saw it, her teacher liked it, I also liked it, I left a comment and her teacher left a comment. So that kind of taking down that one wall, and not always, you know, how they, and like when we were in school, worksheets went home, right? Worksheets aren't going home anymore. So being able to see all of the things that they're doing. So that was just a side note. Here is the screencast that you can go back and watch later that has all the steps basically of what the kids did for their uploading of their collection, since it wasn't recorded very well on that video. So it shows them adding the picture and all the tools that are available. So if you just click on the picture, it will open up the link for you to view that. And then I did go ahead and add the number sense routine we did as a warm up right before counting, because with Math Workshop, always having that number sense routine and daily practice with numbers is huge and very beneficial to students. This is a template that was created by one of our TOSAs in our district. She created it last year when we were online, and it was an online version, and they can manipulate and move it, or you can do it that way in class and have them move it. And then it shows what it would look like at the end, but we just used fancy note cards and folded them in half. So we kind of practiced counting by fives and different ways the fives were represented, just to kind of get their mind already counting and thinking. So I just added these on here as like a little bonus. And then you can always use pictures to count groups, which one doesn't belong. And then this was just an example of how the collections were set up. And I've never used glass just because kids aren't always the most careful. So Michael's actually has plastic mason jars that I used with some Dino Dash money. Our district has that. And I purchased those for my collections to keep them organized and neat. And then this was just some close-up pictures of how they were organizing and counting. And then hopefully there's still 5 minutes for questions. So, and like I said, if there's anything else you guys want, just put it in the evaluation at the end. Here's my email. You can email me anytime, ask any questions. And yeah, that was faster than I thought.
Krista, there's a question. Does SeeSaw work on Chromebooks?
Yeah, I mean, it works on any device. I like all the stuff I did from my end, I did on a computer. It's just as far as taking a picture, it's a little more tricky when they're on the computer. You'll have to hold it up like this, and they would have to learn how to manipulate the computer to the floor, but you can still use it on the computer. Sometimes it's easier. But as far as like the drawing tool, like with the mouse and stuff, that would be more tricky. I would suggest using the typing tool during that, but it can be used on any device, yes. Was there any other questions?
Do you want to talk about because SeeSaw is fee-based, correct? Is there a free version?
I believe there still is the free version. There's like the school, like the district version, like the SeeSaw for schools, which has more features, but I believe it still has the free version as well. I do have a QR code as a SeeSaw ambassador that gives you like 2 months of free access to all of the tools. But yeah, I had used it before we had it as a district as a paid one. I'm pretty sure it's still free. I would have to look into that though. But I still thought it was free. But now I'm curious.
I know last year, yeah, someone said in the chat that it is free.
Mm-hmm.
It's the free version doesn't offer, like you said, as many of the tools.
Yes.
So
it still has, I feel like it still has enough tools because that it's still super beneficial. And for me, what was like a life-changing thing with SeeSaw was the parent involvement for them to be able to and create that connection with the families. where they really felt like they were in our classroom, you know, like creating that community.
No, I agree. That's awesome.
And I know for sure it still has the drawing tool. It still has the recording, picture, photo, and typing. Those are still on there. It might not have the backgrounds and the links and those components, but yeah, I'll look into that for next time.
Krista, I had a question about, like, you know how you mentioned, I totally see the same thing where kids will start sorting by color or shape, you know, and it's like, what are some kind of guiding questions? You said you did a midpoint interruption, because it is kind of sometimes hard to move them, for me, into that. Oh, how else is that an efficient way to count? What are some moves that you do?
So that's like exactly what I did. I was like, is that the most efficient way that we should be counting? Like, we don't need to separate it. And then one year I did have a kid that all they did. So then I started giving them noodles. So they were all the same color. They looked the same. They had no choice but to count them. So I kind of took that component out, and those are cheap. You know, you don't have to, like, you can just buy a bag of those little pinwheel noodles. But in the moment, yeah, I just kind of like, well, look, we can just move them like this and kind of help them move. I think I did it with Chloe, actually. I kind of moved hers over for her, and she's like, oh yeah, that works too. But they do want to sort because they think it's like a sort, you know, because kinder, they sort things and they group things, and they do that as well. But like I said, when I had a couple kids who couldn't get past that, I just took that component out and just provided them something that was all the same.
Okay, that's a great idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? All right, well then you get a little bit of a longer break. Our next session starts at 9:30. So grab some more coffee or do whatever you need to do, and then we'll see you at your next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.